What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Grave Media. This is Josh here, checking in on you with a late one, man. I'm telling you right now, it is 3:10 a.m. on the East Coast, so it's getting late here, but I wanted to check in. I missed you last night. We're taking just a quick little trip down the disturbing movie rabbit hole with 2018's banger, The House That Jack Built from Lars von Trier. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this film. A lot of people hate it. We're going to break it down. However you found yourself here, thanks for being here. Kick your shoes off, sit crisscross applesauce, grab a beer, some Oreos or something in the back. They are double stuffed. Hope you're cool with that. Does anybody still eat regular Oreos anymore? I mean, let's be real. Anyway, The House That Jack Built. Thanks for being here. Check it out. The House That Jack Built is a nearly perfect film. I'm sorry, but it is. It's another pure stroke of genius from Lars von Trier. It's a movie that rationalizes the cold-blooded, cynical killing of a serial killer. It's gonna ruffle some feathers. It's gonna piss off the proverbial good taste police with shocking depictions of violence and aggression on screen. Now, would you quit pointing that gun at me? You're kind of hurting my feelings a little bit. The House That Jack Built, it's an unflinching look at the obsession and murderous tics of serial killer Jack. If that doesn't upset you or make you feel something, then yeah, I think maybe you've missed the point. Jack is teetering on the edge of violence in all of its 155-minute runtime. His story is told through the lens of some sort of half-assed confessional in 5 stages that alternate between his charming ability to lower his victim's guard and then his sheer brutality. In the first chapter, we witness Jack's initial foray into murder, which he rationalizes as a form of artistic expression. That first encounter, poor Uma Thurman, it sets the tone for the film as Jack's meticulous planning and cold-blooded detachment highlights this disturbing nature. We take a hellish trip into his mind, grappling with the morality of his actions while definitely picking up on his charisma. As more and more layers of the story unfold, Jack's killings become increasingly elaborate and grotesque. In the second chapter, he preys upon a widow and should have won an Academy Award for his line and seduction of the lively widow struggling with her dead husband's pension. It's brutal, but it's captivating to watch his OCD tendencies and kind of grin as he has to return to the scene again and again, multiple times as he's nearly exposed because he's got these cleaning patterns that he just can't get out of his own way. Jack charms the fuck out of the victims and the police, but the third chapter, I think, is the most brutal. In this, he's kind of entangled in this chapter with a girlfriend and her 2 kids, Grumpy and George. This family have the unfortunate fate of taking hunting lessons. As graphic as the first 2 chapters are, it's really the third chapter and the amount of daylight that really sets the table for disgust for most people. The sheer violence and blood spread across the screen juxtaposed to the brilliant and bright sunlight. I don't know, man, it's wicked, it's different, and it's just plain mean. A common theme in Lars von Trier's work. I think for most normies, this stage particular, this kind of flashback, it's overwhelming. Jack's ethical hunting plays out in front of the helpless mother herself, and if that isn't enough, the picnic at gunpoint with your children's limp bodies is absolutely horrid. I mean, this is the scene of the movie. I think this is really what separates the men from the boys. This is what gets the butts out of the seats. This is where people probably turn this damn thing off. It is an absolute gut punch, and it's unbelievably cold, dude. It even got to me quite a bit. The sunlight, the headshots, and the picnic basket, it's just fucking mean. That's all it, pure and simple. By the time we imagine, right? You're on a little hunting trip with your boyfriend, and you bring your kids along, and then all of a sudden he is for sport going to kill them in front of you one by one, and then he's going to give you the opportunity to run away for sport. But instead, before all that happens, you have to go and find your sons, and then you have to have a picnic basket and be forced to eat while your kids are laying on you. It's hard to watch, man. It's brutal. Absolutely brutal, pure and simple. By the time we actually circle back to the freezer and there's a dismembered corpse, I think most people are walking out of this film. We then trade that child body armor for frozen bodies posed and deformed in a stark freezer with like this creepy grin cut into their faces. That scene was just unbelievable, dude. The House That Jack Built, you know, as the plot goes through these different 5 stages and his like musings and his serial killer tendencies and all of his ways, each one kind of escalates a little bit. He does have some romantic interests. He treats this poor girlfriend of his called Simple just like absolute dog shit. He even goes to the cops and tries to explain what's happening. Of course, they don't believe her or him, and so it's just all laughed off. Hard to watch, uncompromising, unflinching, whatever your kind of terms are for like intense. This movie has it. If you feel like screaming, you definitely should. It says right on it. So you know it's good. I think that this film, you know, while also just being a play off of Dante's Inferno, is super smart, super well put together. And it just floored me when I first watched it. When I rewatched it, I took just a whole bunch of notes in no particular order. They go: the colors, the shadows, the mythology, the maturations, the incident, the cruelty, the humor, the disturbing nature. Matt Dillon is unhinged and maniacal, but also perfectly sane, explaining his way through narcissism and OCD, through ritual and purpose. Did I just say purpose or perfect? Because that's what this is. A director at the top of his game, telling a story through flashbacks, creative camera effects, lenses, musical score, and brutal fucking imagery. This thing is a beast, and it is smart as shit. I know that doesn't make any sense, but that lamppost analogy was something special, man. There are some effects in this movie and some like artistic choices that Lars takes that just blew me away. The lamppost is basically this. The analogy is, imagine a man walking down a street underneath the street lamps. Right under a lamp, his shadow is the densest but also the tiniest. Then when he starts to move, his shadow grows in front of him. The shadow becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until it thins out. And that shadow behind him from the next lamppost emerges and becomes shorter and shorter until it reaches its ultimate density as the man stands directly underneath the light. That analogy is shown through these like lampposts, and he's trying to explain away his murder and his tics and his psychological problems, and he's basically just trying to rationalize and explain like, no, I do this because of how I was treated, how I was raised. There's artistic merit in it. You don't understand. And I think that while you can throw this movie away because of all the brutal and shocking imagery and the grotesque violence, and it's chock full of that shit, man. Chock full. I think you're gonna miss out on some like really good direction. Is it a little bit artsy fartsy or pretentious? I can see people saying that you shouldn't have to go through that much gore to think that this is amazing, but that's what I like. And I think that if you haven't seen a Lars von Trier film before, you probably won't watch another one if you hate this movie. But if you've seen Antichrist, Nymphomaniac, he's got a bunch, and that's kind of his thing. He pushes the envelope, and just throwing big old Matt Dillon on here probably caught people off guard a little bit, because he's kind of, you know, I mean, I remember from Drugstore Cowboy and a bunch of movies in the 80s. That's my Matt Dillon. Shout out to his brother from The Blob too, right? Is that Kevin Dillon? But, you know, as he grew older, he kind of started taking these like comedic roles, but this is a wicked turn. If this was Vince Vaughn, you would hate Vince Vaughn. You would think that he was amazing. Patrick Bateman, Norman Bates, who? Matt Dillon, Jack, unbelievable. 10 out of fucking 10. So, should this film be as condemned and warrant the outrage that it receives? Possibly. You know, like I said, if you're not familiar with the director's work and what he does, then yeah, this is going to catch you off guard. This is going to be morally reprehensible. Like, this is going to upset you quite a bit. Throwing Matt Dillon in there in the forefront, it's different. I think that the graphic gore, the Uma Thurman kill, the bodies in the freezer, the way that he just toys with his victims and plays with his food and murders, like, nobody is safe in this film. This is a film that knows exactly what it is, and it's got kind of a point, and it does kind of like sneakily throw some of that like artistic expression with like what he's thinking. Dante's Inferno, right? The 9 circles of hell, like it goes back and forth where it's like, you know, showing stills and clips of his childhood. He's just trying to come to terms of it, and it's all just basically a long 2.5-hour confession of a serial killer trying to explain away why he killed people. And I think that it's done super well. It is incredibly effective. I think it's amazing. I think that it's funny to read like people's like scathing reviews of it, all the 1-star reviews, when this thing is, I think it's really well made, man. I think next to Antichrist, this is my favorite film from him. I think if you just pay attention to the gore, you're gonna miss out on something great. You know, I understand that even PETA, with some of the things, some of the animals that happen in this film, like that stuff is pretty twisted. That stuff is pretty hard to watch. But apparently they signed off on it, is what Wikipedia says. So I don't know, man. I'm just saying, if you haven't seen The House That Jack Built, give this thing a day in court. If you're into film, serial killers, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, you know, maybe a little Natural Born Killers with some really intense, just brutal kind of, I don't know, man, tons of gore. And you can tell I'm getting sick, right? I still want to come on here and talk about this movie, because I didn't check in with you last night. I felt like I was missing you, right? I didn't want to leave you guys hanging all weekend. So check out the House of Jack Bill. If you want to see more from me, please like, comment, subscribe, and then follow me on social media. Talk some shit down there. Let me know, have you seen this film? Do you hate it? Is it as bad as everybody says, right? Do you like double stuffed Oreos? Because there's only a few left. So apparently, yeah, you're into it, right? Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.
What? No, dude!